She told me not to worry, it was just a wedding. I'll be back late, she said, grabbing her clutch off the kitchen counter like it was any other Saturday night. Plus ones are for couples who both know the bride, she added casually, twisting her earring in with one hand and her words like a knife in the other. But that's not what made my stomach turn. What got me was how normal she sounded. Like we hadn't spent the last 6 years building this fragile, complicated thing we called marriage. Like I hadn't noticed her phone lighting up with messages from someone saved under studio vibes, or that her laughter had started to feel rehearsed. I watched her walk out the door in that soft blue dress, the one I bought her on our anniversary trip to Charleston, back when she still held my hand like it meant something. She didn't kiss me goodbye that night. She just said, "Don't wait up." And I didn't. I sat in the living room, alone, long after the sound of her heels faded down the hallway. I flipped through channels, pretended to care about a game I didn't understand, and finally ended up scrolling through Instagram, mind numb, thumb working on autopilot. And then I saw it. A photo in someone's story, a wedding photographer I didn't follow, but whose account was tagged by a friend of a friend. You know how it is. One click leads to another, and suddenly you're in the digital margins of someone else's life. There she was, my wife, hand resting on a man's chest, his hand on the small of her back, her head tilted toward him in that way she used to lean into me. The caption was innocent enough, "Love in the air tonight." But her smile wasn't. It was the smile of someone comfortable, someone not just caught, but content. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at him. I stared at that frame like it was a painting in a museum dedicated to people who got played. My breath caught in my throat, and for a second, I thought maybe I was seeing it wrong. Maybe it was some old friend, or someone she knew from college, or maybe it was just a pose the photographer told them to do. They do that sometimes, right? But I knew better. That hand placement wasn't choreographed. It was claimed, familiar. So I did what felt both small and seismic. I tapped the reply bubble under the story and typed one word. Nice. Then I blocked her. Not because I didn't want to see what came next, but because I already had. The second I saw that picture, I knew this wasn't a one-time mistake or a momentary lapse. This was something else. This was a person who looked into my eyes every morning and lied without flinching. Blocking her wasn't about anger. It was about clarity. I stood up, walked into our bedroom, and opened the closet. Her side smelled like lavender and guilt. I pulled out my old duffel bag, the one we used for weekend getaways before getaways turned into excuses and us became just another thing we scheduled around. I didn't pack everything, just enough. Enough to not come back. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt overdue. As I zipped the bag closed, a memory hit me, not a big one, just a flicker from last fall. We were walking through a pumpkin patch of all places, laughing about how cheesy the whole thing was. She leaned into me then, the same way she did with him in that photo. And now I don't know if that moment was real or just practice. I slept in my car that night, parked at the overlook where we used to go in the early days. Back when we'd sneak wine in coffee cups and talk about everything we were going to build together. It rained. I didn't mind. The sound helped. The next morning, I checked her profile, not because I was weak, but because I needed to know what story she'd tell. Her account was private. She'd already removed me. That's when it hit me. She was ready for me to see. She didn't flinch when she left wearing that dress. She wasn't hiding anymore. She'd just stopped pretending to care if I found out. That was the real betrayal. Not the hand on his chest. Not the dress. Not even the wedding lie. It was the ease. The absence of shame. And now, for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. But that didn't make it hurt less. It just meant the pain had somewhere to go. I stayed off the grid for a few days. No texts, no calls, no social media. It's strange how fast the silence settles in. You think the world's going to collapse without your presence in it, but it doesn't. It just keeps spinning. The second night after I left, I turned my phone back on. 23 missed calls. All from her. One text. Saw your comment. Call me. Please. No explanation. No apology. Just a plea that tasted like control. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove 6 hours to my brother's place in Asheville. He was surprised to see me at his door with a duffel and circles under my eyes. We hadn't been close in years. Too different. He stayed rooted, married to his high school sweetheart, running a coffee shop with her. Me? I chased city lights and built a life that looked good on paper. But that night, none of that mattered. He opened the door, took one look at me, and said, "You hungry?" I broke down over a bowl of reheated chili. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Just enough. She lied, I said. A wedding turned into something else. He nodded, like he'd been waiting for me to admit it. You always looked a little lonelier when you talked about her, he said. That stuck with me. Over the next few days, I started pulling at the threads, trying to piece together what I'd missed or ignored. There were signs, of course. They always appear in hindsight, sharp and clear like broken glass. There was the time she spent a weekend visiting her cousin, but left her location turned on by mistake, 3 hours away from where she claimed to be. The late-night editing sessions for her photography business that never added up to actual published work. The guy with the camera who seemed to show up in every event she worked, even though he lived in a different state. His name was Jason. Jason Withers. I remembered because she mentioned him once, casually, said he was just someone she collaborated with on styled shoots. Very professional, she'd said. Bit full of himself, though. The man in the photo? Jason. I looked him up. Public profile. Big on reels and behind-the-scenes content. And there she was, not just that one frame I'd stumbled across, but multiple. Her laugh echoing in the background of his videos. Her voice teasing him off camera. Her reflection in the mirrors he shot. They weren't hiding. They just didn't think I was looking. It felt like a slap in slow motion. Not loud. Not violent. Just heavy. Deliberate. Meant to linger. I didn't tell anyone else. Not my brother. Not my parents. I wasn't ready to make it real beyond myself. Grief is strange like that. You carry it like a secret, even when it's dragging you under. On the 5th day, I got another message. A video. Not from her. From a mutual friend. Sarah. I'm sorry, man. I thought you knew. I hesitated before opening it. My hands actually trembled. It was a clip from the wedding reception. Guests dancing, lights low, music loud. Jason's camera swinging from his shoulder. Her, swaying with him in the center of the floor. His hand on her waist, her arms around his neck. They kissed. Not long. Not frantic. But familiar. I watched it twice, just to be sure. I wish I hadn't. A cold calm washed over me. The kind that doesn't come with tears, just clarity. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't scream. I just stared at the paused frame of her lips on his like it was some ancient symbol I finally understood. She was gone. Maybe she had been for a while. That night, I wrote her an email. Not a fight. Not a plea. Just the truth. Subject, no title. You don't have to explain anymore. I saw it. All of it. I wish I could say I was surprised, but deep down, I think I knew. I just didn't want it to be true. There's no going back from this, but I'm not going to make this ugly. I'll have my lawyers send over the paperwork. You can keep the apartment. I don't want the couch we picked out, or the dishes, or the framed pictures. I don't even want an apology. I just want my time back. But since that's impossible, I'll settle for peace. I didn't send it. Not yet. Maybe I needed one more night to sit with it, to grieve the version of her I'd loved, not the one who walked into a stranger's arms while still wearing my commitment like a costume. That morning, her name popped up on my phone again. A voicemail this time. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for you to find out like that. There it was. Not, I didn't mean to do it. Just not like that. She wasn't sorry. She was caught. And suddenly, everything fell into place. The missed phone calls, the last-minute trips, the emotional distance that crept in like mold, slow, quiet, corrosive. This wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. It always is. The divorce moved quickly. Too quickly, honestly. She didn't contest a thing. Not the separation, not the terms, not even the silence that came afterward. That's how I knew. Whatever feelings she once had for me, they were already gone. She'd grieved the end of us long before I saw that photo. Her lawyer responded with efficiency that felt rehearsed. Like she'd been waiting for this. Like she already had it queued up. A week later, I returned to the apartment. Not to talk, not to fight, just to gather what was left of my life. I gave her a day's notice. She said she'd be out. The door was unlocked. The place was strangely untouched. My books were still on the shelf. My coat still hung behind the door. But it didn't smell like us anymore. It smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. Sanitized. Erased. She'd left a note on the counter, next to the coffee machine. I'm sorry you found out that way. I never wanted to hurt you. I just stopped knowing how to be your person. You were always so calm, so grounded. I think I needed chaos. That doesn't make this okay, but it's the truth. I hope you find someone who never looks away from you. Kay. I stood there, holding the note like it might explain something if I stared long enough. It didn't. What stuck with me wasn't her apology. It was that one line. I think I needed chaos. That explained everything. The distance. The lies. The man with the camera who could chase her through dance floors and dim hotel rooms without asking about bills or boundaries or boring things like stability. She didn't want calm. She wanted the spark, even if it burned everything down. And me? I was the house she lit the match in. I didn't take much when I left. Just my records, my grandfather's watch, a couple of jackets, and the mug she never liked. The chipped one I always used on bad days. I didn't even pack our wedding photos. They felt like souvenirs from a trip I never actually took. A few weeks passed. Then I saw it. Another story. Same photographer. Different setting, an autumn engagement shoot in some field. And there she was again. My ex-wife. Only this time, she wasn't in the background. She was the subject. Her arms were wrapped around Jason's waist. He held the camera at arm's length, recording them both smiling into the lens. Never thought I'd find this kind of love behind the lens, he wrote in the caption. No shame. No subtlety. It wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about announcing. That was the final nail. It wasn't betrayal anymore. It was reinvention. She hadn't just moved on. She was rewriting the narrative. Love found in unexpected places. Romance in the wreckage. As if I'd just been the warm-up act to their real story. That night, I printed a photo of us from the early days, back when smiles came easy. I placed it in a box, along with the letter she left, and sealed it shut. Not out of bitterness. Out of preservation. That was her chapter. And now, it was mine to close. People always ask, would you have stayed if she hadn't been caught? The truth? No. Because the moment you start questioning whether someone still sees you, really sees you, the relationship's already bleeding out. You can bandage it, delay the end, but the wound is there. Quiet. Constant. What I miss isn't her. It's the version of me that still believed in us. The man who thought commitment was enough. Who thought being steady made you indispensable. Turns out, some people don't want stability. They want escape. She chose him. I chose peace. It didn't feel powerful. It felt lonely. Like walking out of a burning house barefoot. Everything behind you scorched, but at least you're still standing. That's the thing about endings. They never happen all at once. They unravel, thread by thread, until you're just a man staring at a photo of a woman who used to know your coffee order, wondering when she became a stranger. But here's what I do know now. Love isn't proven in the promises we whisper. It's revealed in the moments we think no one's watching. And she showed me everything I needed to see, not in words, not even in betrayal, but in that photo. Her hand on his chest. My name nowhere in sight.